Greetings survivors and friends, SHADOWFRAX here with all the important news of what's been done to Rust in this week's monthly patch and forced wipe, plus everything I know about what's going to be shooting out the end of the pipe at us over the next couple of fortnights. So buckle up. First, unless you've been wedged inside a propeller shaft for the last few weeks, then you'll know this patch saw touchdown of the absolute unit that is the Scrap Transport Helicopter, or Whopperus Chopperus if you want to use the Latin. I've already dished out a load of info about this over the last month, but here's a quick recap and data burst for you. The new Zerg delivery system will spawn at various points on the map, with about 5 of them at any one time on a default sized island. They have 1000 HP, hold 500 low grade in the tank, but burn it twice as fast as the Mini-Me version. You fly them in the same way, but they're generally more stable and forgiving. There's room for 2 in the front and an absolute crap load to wander around freely in the back. Just make sure you call Guinness first before attempting any world records. They decay in 3 hours, there's no point storing them inside to save you the bother of trying, and you can repair them with metal frags. They also insta-crush anyone who's stupid enough to stand under them. Talking of which, and this is just between you and me, you understand, but I found that you can squish other players and NPCs in the compound and bandit camps and nobody will bat an eyebrow. Safe zone my ass. Just whatever you do, don't tell FacePunch, they'll probably patch it. And I'm just sitting here wondering, what's next? What form of transport could you possibly give the person who has everything? Pedalo? Ice cream van? Segway? Inflatable banana water shoes? Leave me a comment. As a countermeasure to the inevitable increase in air traffic, rocket launchers and HV rockets have been both lowered in tier and crafting cost, plus they are now more accurate and do extra damage to air vehicles, with 3 HV rockets being enough to knacker a Whopper Chopper. SAM sights are also more effective. Oh, and HV rocket damage to everything else remains unchanged, in case you were wondering. There's seriously a lot of other changes in this patch though, mainly thanks to FacePunch cancelling all their prototype projects and shifting about 10 devs over to Rust. That's 100 extra fingers and thumbs smashing out the code presumably, so you're in for a treat over the next few months' patches. But here's a quick roundup of the rest of what happened in this one. If you remember me mumbling something about it last week, from here on in, auto turrets are not quite so auto. As threatened, they now require 10 electricity to work, have 3 outputs for low ammo, no ammo, and have a target notifications. They have to be empty before you can pick them up, and they now can't be drained without the drainee taking damage. Or at least that's the plan. In combination with these, we now have fuel generators, which are a fairly easy to come by way of turning low grade into a 40 power output. Plus, they have inputs for turning them on and off remotely, so you don't have to waste any of that precious horse fuel. As an extra balancing measure, F1 grenades were made less bouncy, their fuses were shortened, and they're more effective against turrets requiring only 10 to destroy one. Horses were improved and should feel more responsive whilst performing better. Their health was lowered, probably in anticipation of horse armor, and you can now lead them to you in case they get a hoof wedged in something. Oh, and being able to snaffle hitching posts and troughs indoors now means proper stables are possible. Tool cupboards will auto-authorize the person who just placed them to save you valuable seconds. Pressure pads can now be easily secreted under rugs and give out a signal when trodden on, even when not powered. And if you go down to your local Radtown today, you're in for a big surprise. The Sparkies have been in and actually wired up the puzzles with actual wires that you can actually see. This means they don't require anywhere near as many brain cells to figure out now. You'll barely be thinking. In other news, the Linux client is now dead and gone, but you can get a refund if you had it. Just make sure you've run it at least once in the past year and request your dosh back through the usual Steam channels. The Linux server still works though, in case you wondered. Also, with this change, Rust no longer supports Vulkan on Windows. Not that it actually gave any performance improvements, apparently. You'll notice when you run Rust now that the usual game launcher window is gone, and resolution and full screen options along with VSync have been moved to a new screen menu in-game. There were various bug and exploit fixes. Knockers no longer protect doors against explosive damage, you can't glitch inside the Chinooks on the cargo ship anymore, and hot air balloons won't destroy copters if you fly over them. Praise be! There were a number of small UI improvements which I'll let you pick up on yourself, plus a bit of recoding in this area should help reduce UI-related performance spikes and issues. Small maps now have big monuments back, apart from the launch and the excavator of course. You still need a map over 3.5k for those to appear. Helicopters have had their sounds revamped, and there's even a proper Doppler shift effect now. Let's just listen to that, shall we? Smashing. Also, for filmmakers, a number of new debug camera controls were added, and I'll stick a list of them in the description if that interests you. In performance, texture streaming is finally here, and it actually works on the latest version of Unity. You may or may not see a huge difference depending on your system, but it has been enabled on about a third of all textures, which currently saves around a gig of memory and will likely be expanded in future. There are new shadow quality settings if you want to make things look more realistic. However, for those of you who prefer more than 3 frames a year, normal shadows should now run 25% faster with the same perceived quality. Temporal anti-aliasing and motion blur effects were greatly improved for foliage and cloth, and a big push was made this month to tackle meshes and their memory footprint. So far, the optimizations have saved around 700 megabytes along with faster rendering, and there will be more to come, so stay tuned. Crunch texture compression was enabled for all workshop skins shipped with the game, and this basically reduces the install size by a whopping 8 gigabytes. Please note though, it doesn't affect RAM usage, just disk space. Rust clients now use IL2 CPP, which can, under some circumstances, take the load off of CPUs a bit, but the main advantage is to make cheat creation that bit harder. Not impossible, of course, but it's definitely an extra hurdle. And there was some garbage collection improvements and benchmarking work, all intended to help the team pinpoint areas to improve upon. I'd recommend reading the blog if you want full details of all the performance gains this month, because I can see your eyes have almost fully rolled back into your heads now. We're still waiting for modular vehicles, musical instruments, and the big switch to HDRP, which I've already said enough about for now, I think. No news on when we'll get all these yet, but I will tell you when I find out, of course. And lastly, a few really interesting quality of life improvements to look forward to, as well as adding notes to maps, points of interest, and seeing where we died. It looks like we'll be able to see where our sleeping bags are too, along with their timers, and we'll be able to click on them to respawn there. Item splitting is getting some love. There'll be a number of options for splitting involving the middle mouse button, and you'll be able to right-click on the item split bar to type an exact amount. We'll be able to right-click and drag to spin our player model on the inventory screen, good for checking out those skins. You'll also be able to turn this model off for extra performance. And quick crafting is getting an overhaul. Right-clicking a quick craft item will remove it from the crafting queue. There'll be quick craft misclick prevention via a small buffer, and a new favorites category is being added to the crafting menu, and these will show up first in the quick crafting section. All of these changes are happening on separate branches, but I'll show you more as and when they turn up on staging, so make sure you subscribe and turn notifications on. Right, you're up to date. Please spank the like button into submission. Follow me on Twitch for streams throughout the week. Stay up to date with me on Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and my Steam group, and I shall catch you all soon. But in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio. Safe zone my ass.